Good morning. My name is Katie Goslin, and I'm happy to serve as the worship associate today and to welcome you here. I invite us to take a deep breath and center ourselves with these words from Reverend Gretchen Haley. Every little thing that breaks your heart is welcome here. We'll make a space for it, give it its due time and praise. For the wanting it represents the longing for something more, some healing hope that remains. We promise no magic, no making it all better, but offer only this circle of trust, this human community that remembers, though imperfectly, that sings and prays, though sometimes awkwardly, this gathering that loves, though not yet enough. We're still practicing. After all, still learning, still in need of help and partners, still becoming, able to receive all this beauty and all these gifts. We each bring. Come, let us worship together. A flaming chalice has been a symbol of Unitarian Universalists for many decades, and we join our siblings in faith each Sunday by lighting our chalice here in the sanctuary. For those joining us online, I invite you to light a candle or chalice in your own space as we share these words by Julie Lepp. We light this chalice with hope, a sturdy flame we nurture in these difficult times. We light this chalice with the heart of compassion for a nation divided by politics and strife. We light this chalice knowing that it will take all of us to repair this world we live in. May we find rest, compassion, and the hope that we need to nurture ourselves and each other. May this sturdy light remind us of the people we can be and the difference we can make in the world together. And now please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 1020 in the teal hymnal, Woyaya.
Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see so many of you here, to welcome you into this space, those joining us online. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. We are a people of many different histories, ages, genders, bodies, identities, and beliefs. And we are united in our commitment to our mission, which is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. I am Rev Beth. My pronouns are she, hers. I am a very short, middle-aged white woman with short brown hair and glasses, wearing a clerical robe with a beautiful tree stole this morning. And I am honored to serve as the lead minister to this congregation alongside our associate minister, Reverend Sally Fritchie. It's a joy to welcome you here into this space that we make sacred with our intentions, and I trust that this service today will bring you what your heart needs, even if you don't know what that is. I want to bid a special welcome to any guests who have joined us this morning. I invite you to complete a connections card so we can keep you informed about all the different things that happen in the life of our church. So if you want more information about us and how to stay connected to us, complete that connection card and just put it in the offering plate later in the service. As I said, we are a congregation of all ages, and that means we embrace all the noises and little distractions that kids can bring into a Sunday morning. And while kids are invited to stay here with us for the duration of the service, our faith development program will have our REE classes. And so our kids and volunteers will be invited to go to their classrooms after the time for all ages, which is noted in your order of service. And we do have a nursery, and it is open today for little ones under 5, if that's a better space for those who really, truly want to run around and play. And no matter your age, if you are a person who needs a little more space, you need to get your wiggles out, you are welcome at any time to go across the entryway into Fellowship Hall. The service is being live streamed there. And if you'd like to keep your hands busy, we have coloring packs just underneath the lanyard table, just outside our entry doors. We invite everybody to also join us in Fellowship Hall immediately after the service for our time of kinship and conversation, and of course, coffee. It would not be a UU Fellowship Hour without coffee. Although I did hear we missed coffee a few weeks ago, and I was like, that's good practice for everybody to feel like, how can they get by without it, and how can they pitch in to make it? So yay, everybody, for flexing that muscle. As we think about how we gather and building community and kinship, I do like to remind us each week that we are living in endemic and pandemic times. You are always welcome to wear a mask in this space. And if you would like to signal to folks to just keep a little distance, we have color-coded lanyards at the entryway. The yellow and red ones really just send a signal that you're more comfortable, maybe if people wave rather than try to shake your hand or hug you. And of course, this is how we practice care and consent in community together. With all of that, I just want to center us once more to thank you for being here on this very cold but very beautiful and sunny first Sunday in March. Can you believe that it is March of 2025? I just like to say it out loud sometimes to remind myself that time is made up. But in this time that we have agreed upon on the first Sunday in March, it also means it is the beginning of a new worship series. We are doing themed worship this year with a different theme that we're focused on each month. And this month's theme is trust, or how we learn to fly together. It's also Women's History Month, a time to celebrate the contributions of, half of humanity that so often have been overlooked, dismissed, or claimed by others. And March is a very busy, holy month all across the world. Ramadan started just 2 nights ago. Lent for the Christians amongst us will begin later this week. The Jewish holy day of Purim is coming up in 2 weeks, and the Hindu holiday of Holi will also be happening right around the same time as Purim. And of course, blessedly, we get to celebrate the spring equinox in just a couple of weeks. All of these holy days and the equinox itself invite us into reflection on how to create balance in our lives. Physical, spiritual, emotional balance all require trust. Trust in our own selves, trust in the world, trust in the relationships we build and that sustain us. Trust takes time to build, to nurture, and sustain, and it's a vital ingredient in making loving, transformative change possible. Educator, author, businessman, spiritual, religious man, Stephen Covey, famously wrote about the speed of trust over 20 years ago. And while his focus in that work was on ethical business practices and the cost from lack of them, the speed of trust is a concept others have adopted to describe how central trust is to our thriving. Reverend Jennifer Bailey wrote that relationships are built at the speed of trust, and social change happens at the speed of relationships. We only are because of how we are in relationship with each other. And so building and maintaining trusting relationships is part of what we are called to do as a spiritual community. Living our mission requires that we build trust with each other, trust with our internal systems, trust with our partners in community. We see the results of broken trust all around us, and it is a radical act for us here at UUCUC to practice deeply, truly trusting each other. And so I'm looking forward to exploring trust in the coming month, and I welcome you all along for the journey. We are also, though, in the middle of our generosity campaign, our annual pledge drive where we invite members and friends of the congregation to make a formal financial pledge to support the work of the church in the coming year. This year's theme is Roots and Branches, and we give financially and in all the other ways we give, but we give in order to honor our roots and the work that has made this moment possible. And we give to nurture the growing branches, to support the work we know we want to do in the year to come. As of yesterday, I'm happy to report that we have received 72 pledges, with 12 of those being from brand new folks. So yay, thank you all, that's wonderful. We know that we will have, before the campaign ends, at least 100 more pledges. So if you have not yet turned in your pledge form, either physically at the table here in Fellowship Hall or electronically, you can submit it right on Realm. You still have time to do that. Join those 72 pledgers for the life and promise of our church in the year to come. And as part of lifting up our practices of generosity and how vital pledging is, during the campaign, there are members who have given their time very generously. See, generous, pun intended there. To share why they give. And this morning, I'm very, very pleased that Ann Newman, with some special guests, is going to give our generosity testimony as a time for all ages today. So I'm happy to invite Ann to come on up.
Good morning. Things you shouldn't say. Is this thing on? Check 1, 2, anything but that, right? Okay. We're going to invite the young and young at heart to come gather here. Is that Beth? So they can see. Come join us. Good. See, if I focus on y'all, I won't be seeing the other people so much, and I won't be so scared. I get anxious. Oh, we'll go down there so that Robbie can see you. Can you go down there so he can see you? And I'll move around a little bit. I don't want to bump anybody. I beg your pardon? Not yet. Not yet. He hasn't been through the Pathways to Membership class yet, and he's not sure he wants to join, so I let him make up his own mind about things. All right. Good morning. My name is Ann Newman, and I'm so excited to be here. And is this too loud? Too loud? No? Okay. And we're going to talk about generosity. And I brought my friend Robbie the dog because he doesn't know anything about anything. He's very young, and he doesn't know about generosity so much. So I'll tell you how I'll testify about what I do for generosity. Generosity, Robbie. Now listen. Generosity is when you help someone, or it could be you do something for them, like you help your neighbor, you take over some food if they need it, or you babysit their child maybe when they need it, or you help a family member, or you help a stranger, or you help your church. You can help your church by participating in activities, by helping with committees, or by, I don't know, giving them money would be nice. The more the better. Thank you very much. All right. This is Robbie, and Robbie's a tricky one. And I need to let you know, I am not a magician. I am a puppeteer, right? And Robbie's, he's just himself. And I'm going to be generous to Robbie. And here's one way I be generous to Robbie. And I didn't bring any treats, because I might have eaten them. But I do have, where is it? Oh, dear. There. Okay, found it. I have a little red ball. Yeah, see how he focuses on that? Robbie loves toys so much, don't you, Robbie? Yeah, good dog. And because you are my favorite dog in the whole world, or maybe almost favorite dog in the whole world, I'm going to let you hold it, sniff it. Yeah, and hold it. There. Isn't that great? He loves having a little red ball. Okay, now, let me have it back. I need it back. We need to go on with the thing. So I need it back. I need it back. Spit it out. Spit it out. These are very small balls. I'm not sure I should be doing this. I don't want him to choke on it, so we'll just put that in there. Okay? Good. I feel better now knowing he's not going to choke on it or anything. So. What? What? Oh, my word. Give it, leave it, give it. Thanks, you guys. You don't want an animal or a small child to choke, so really you should not give them things like this. Really, you should not. So we'll just put that in the pocket. It'll be safe there. How else can I be generous to you? Let me think. No, he didn't. Oh, he did. How did you do that? Give me the ball. Give me the ball right now. Robbie, come on. Spit it out. Spit it out. Come on. Whew. All right. I see, I'm trying to be generous. And to be really generous, I want him to, do what he wants with it. I really shouldn't be telling him what to do. When I give it to him, he can have it. But now we're all done. That's the last one, right, Robbie? Robbie, it's the last one. Are there any more balls in your mouth? No, good. All right, Robbie. Okay, this time I must insist. Oh, honey. Oh, now he's sad. Listen, I can't give you things that you might swallow, but I have something you'd like. Robbie really loves balloons. And this will be bigger than that, so you won't be so apt to swallow it. Goodness knows what you will do with it, but... Oh, well, that's not working. That is not funny. Oh, man, I'm sorry. It worked at home. What? You want to help me? Okay. Oh, he's going to help me blow up the balloon. Right. Okay, you can help me, sure. Well done, you. Look at that. All right. You did so well with that. Thank you. You can hold it just like that because I know you love balloons. Oh, see, they make him really happy. He loves balloons so much. Oh, no, just stop it. Robbie, that's enough. Okay, you get a little overexcited. Stop it. Oh, no, let go of that balloon. Oh, thank you so much. Oh. I tell you what, Robbie. Oh, now don't be so sad. It's going to be okay. I'm going to be really generous. I'm going to up my game a little bit. Get a bright balloon. Okay. Just like when you are generous to the church, sometimes you up your game a little. That's what we're doing here. No, I do not need help, Robbie. Big enough? Nope. Okay, did I give enough? Because I'm getting winded here. No? You didn't even look at it. Look at it. Is it big enough? Oh. All right. You want to hold it? There. Are you happy? Oh, it's got a lot of air in it. Oh. Wait. Is that the way you wanted it? Okay, there. I'm so glad we could share this with. There we go. All right. I believe now, am I correct? The young and young at heart and their teachers, their volunteers are going to go down to the RE classes. Yeah. Robbie's going to go right down here and you can just go out either way there. Oh, there he goes. There he goes. Thank you for listening to our story about generosity. Everybody now.
Thank you to Anne and to Ravi. That was great. We should have Ravi every week to be like, more. But the more comes in lots of ways here. We obviously need financial contributions to do the operations of the church. But part of the church operations, no, the whole reason of the church operations is to enable us to live our mission. And building community means that each week when we gather, we make space for each other, for our wholeness and all that we are. And it is an act of generosity that this church is committed to having shared joys and sorrows with each other. In our ritual, both our embodied ritual and our spoken ritual of joys and sorrows, what we trust is that the act of sharing lessens the weight of our sorrows and multiplies and lifts us in our joy. And so this morning, I will invite you, as we sing our blessing song, May the Long Time Sun, the lyrics will be on the screen, although you're invited just to let the music wash over you if you prefer. But we have bowls set up here by the chalice table and in the center back, bowls of water with stones and petals beside them. And so you're invited to think of what you are carrying today, both your private and maybe shared joys and sorrows. To lay a petal for your joy and watch it float, to drop a stone for your sorrows and see how it is held the way you are held in this community. We will also share your spoken joys and sorrows later in the service, and so if you have a joy and sorrow you'd like shared aloud, you're welcome to fill out a joy and sorrow card. You'll find them in your hymnals and your pew racks. Our ushers also have them. You can bring those up to me during this time or put them in the offering plate later when we are collecting our offering. I invite you into just a moment of silence and stillness to think of what you are carrying today, to know you are carrying that with all those gathered here. And now I'll invite us to sing.
We live our mission at this congregation in many ways. Building community means holding space for our joys and sorrows, and also connecting day to day and week to week through the opportunities both within and beyond our congregation. We invite you to subscribe to and read our weekly e-news to stay up to date on all the activities offered through our REE program and our social action councils. This morning, I want to highlight a few things. Join us today for UU The Vote postcard writing in Fellowship Hall after the service. Help get out the vote for the most important election of 2025 in the nation, Wisconsin's election on April 1st, with early voting beginning March 18th. Between 11 a.m. and noon today, we will distribute blank postcards with instructions and voter name and address list for you to take home, write, and mail. We invite everyone to participate in this vital direct action. This week's Inquirers session will be with our Faith Development Director, Kelly Skinner, and REE Council Chair, Natalie Danner. Join them in the back of the sanctuary from noon to 1 p.m. to learn more about all the ways we nurture the exploration of spiritual life for congregation members, their families, and the community. The choir will be performing on Saturday, March 8th at 3 p.m. with choirs from the community at Wesley United Methodist Church. We'll be joined by Amasong, the high school choir from Maroa Forsyth, and the headliner, the People's Chorus. Read more details about these and other events in our NUUs and check out the full calendar of events in Realm. Each Sunday, in recognition of our very real interdependence and reliance on each other, we pass the plate and share our offering with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. Our shared offering partners for March is RACES, the Rape Advocacy, Counseling, and Education Services, which is a community-based rape crisis center serving East Central Illinois. RACES provide free, confidential services to anyone who has been affected by sexual assault, abuse, or harassment. You can give through Realm and via the online portal on our website, or if you're here in the sanctuary, the basket will be passed and checks can be made out to UUCUC, and in the memo put shared offering. Half of all non-pledged donations will go towards sustaining the work of this church, and the other half will go directly to our shared offering partner. We invite you to give whatever is generous for you. This is also the time to submit a written joy or sorrow.
Thank you for your generosity, for giving this morning. And thank you again for generously making space for what we all need to lay down and lift up today. The joys and sorrows folks have asked to share aloud. A joy from Katie Goslin. Katie says, I thoroughly enjoyed meeting with the Racial Justice Book Club this week. Great conversation and insights were shared. And a joy from the Herzogs. Thank you for the recent donations for our 2 little free food pantries, ours in Champaign and the one here at church. You keep these pantries running, and we will be exploring an alternative business to order supplies from other than Amazon. Thank you all again. A sorrow from Lori. Sorrow for my brother-in-law, Jeff, who died at the age of 59 after a long, devastating illness. My sister and nieces took care of Jeff at home for over 8 years, giving him the best life possible. A joy from Kristen Lesor. Kristen shares that she offers deep gratitude to Natalie, Margaret, Jocelyn, and Karen for lending their sewing machines to her recent community sewing class. You were essential to its success, and I'm honored, she writes, that our UU community came together for it. And a joy from Margaret. Glimmers of joy are all around us. I just have to remember to look for them. Amen. A sorrow from Jessica Augustin. My father, Kurt, has been in the hospital these last few days with pneumonia, and 2 days ago he was released back to his nursing home and has entered hospice. While this is a sad time, I also view it as a welcome end to his suffering. Please hold the 2 of us in your hearts. A joy from Roxy. Roxy shares, I am so very thankful for the kind assistance of Tim T., Tim V., and Jerry C. with multiple tasks this weekend. And this is from Lynn Hansen, Walt McMahon's daughter. For those who did not see my message earlier this week, longtime member Walt McMahon, and by long time I mean he joined this church in 1958, Walt died earlier this week. And his daughter Lynn shares, as we grieve his passing, the McMahon family would like to thank this congregation for all the love and support you provided to our dad over many, many months during his illness, and as you continue to provide that support to us. As soon as we set it, we will let you know the date of his memorial service to be held in the relatively near future. This is from Nicole, sending well wishes to all the employees and I'm going to have to take my glasses off. To all the employees and members affected by the news of Health Alliance closing. This is a concern from Willa Hartman, having back surgery on Wednesday, March 5th. Please keep Willa in your thoughts. This is anonymous. Oh no, it's from Pam and Lan. Sorry. Sorry. Our Diego Lucas, Diego, yes, that is a lot of Diegos, has received his green card, providing permanent residency in the U.S. Yay, Diego! While we celebrate, we also are so keenly aware that undocumented immigrants are being targeted in our community. We are lifting up that joy for Diego and Lan and Pam and holding that sorrow for all of our other neighbors deeply affected by current events. A concern from Peggy Patton. Keep Sarah and Charlie Weissman in your thoughts as Sarah recovers from a second heart attack. Oh, I didn't know. Sarah is currently in Carr Hospital undergoing tests. Peggy, thank you for sharing that with us. A sorrow for all federal workers and a joy for the sunshine and the promise of spring. And this is from Shanna. Many things have triggered my PTSD and anxiety this week, but I am truly happy that I have the support of my partner, my son, and now this new community at church. And then young Bo says that he is happy and that he loves church. Bo, so do I. Longtime church nerd. I want to thank you all. Thank you for what you bring with you. Thank you for showing up as your whole selves. Thank you for making space for each other. And so, in the spirit of hope and prayer for what we have shared aloud, for all we are still carrying in our hearts, I want to invite us this morning, instead of silence as we sometimes hold, to sing. I know this rose will open. The lyrics will be here. We'll sing it through 3 times. It is a song of hope. It is also a song of trust, trusting in processes we've created, trusting in each other. I know this rose will open. I know my fears will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I invite you to sing with me. This is a poem called Trustfall by Reverend Peter Friedrichs. What have you learned about the way the world works? Are your hopes intact, your bones unbroken? Do you still dream of being able to fly? Or do you wear the wounds of pain, ancestral or intimate, as your uniform, creases sharp, donned each day without thinking? Is your skin so thick with scars it renders clothing redundant? Would you ever climb up on the tableland of your life and stand like a high diver, your back to the void, your heels hanging over the edge, and taking one deep breath, a full accounting of all that has brought you here, lean back, let go, and fall into whatever is waiting for you? It takes so much trust, not just to let go, but to show up. You know, I like to tell stories, and I had so many that I wanted to share about trust, congregational stories, fictional stories, but part of trust is being vulnerable. So I'll tell you a personal story. I think it's a little funny. About probably 25 years ago, early in my marriage, my husband and I were watching some TV show, probably CSI or Criminal Minds, something awful while everybody in the show was making horrible decisions. hurting each other. And I remember saying, oh, these cops in the show are like you. They don't trust anybody. Not like me, though, because I trust people. And my husband burst into raucous laughter, thinking I had made a joke. And I said, what are you laughing for? He was like, oh, it's so funny. Like, you like everybody, but you don't trust anybody. And then I burst into tears because he'd held up a mirror for me and showed me something about myself that I hadn't known. It was hard to get to like 25 or 26, however old I was at the time, and realize, oh, I've been wearing my life like armor. I've been wearing my scars so thickly that I actually don't let anybody get through. My relationships, as deeply meaningful as they were to me, were often very surface. I didn't trust people, and I wanted to. And so I knew, after my tears and his utter dismay at causing them had passed, that I would need to do some healing, that some of those things that I called scars weren't scars at all, they were still open wounds. That my distrust of people in general had been earned over time, but that trust with and for others, trust in my own self, could be earned as well. But it takes time and intention, and it takes so much practice, personally and collectively, to unlearn all of those hard lessons from our families, from our societies, from our histories, to tend to our wounds with care, without becoming cynical, or without dumping our wounds and bleeding on everyone we encounter, which is another way of not trusting people. Living a wholehearted life where we make deep, meaningful connections requires us to be trusting and trustworthy. And it's not our solo work. It wasn't just my work, although I did have to go to therapy for that, but it was also the work of showing up with others and allowing others to show up for me. We have to show up for each other in order to build the lives we all deserve. Parker Palmer says it this way: if we are willing to embrace the challenge of becoming whole, we cannot embrace it alone, at least not for long. We need trustworthy relationships to sustain us, tenacious communities of support to sustain the journey toward an undivided life. I think we are dedicated in this congregation to building a tenacious community, to helping each other live undivided lives. We've been doing it for over 160 years. And in those decades, we have built and broken trust many times. And as we move into a new era of ministry, as we face a year with not just tumultuous political and social upheavals, but real changes here in our congregation. We are losing our associate minister, and while we are proud and happy to see Reverend Sally take on the role of solo full-time minister to the congregation in Toronto, it is a deep loss for us. It is a shift in what ministry will look like to not have her here. There are going to be more staff changes this year, not just because we are hiring a membership specialist to move into the role of helping us engage, but as we just redefine the work of how we are together. We have shifting priorities in response to the world at large, and it's gonna make us bleed a little bit. It's going to make that scar tissue tender to have to face more and more changes, and it's going to require that we practice trust with each other. And so how can we do that? How can we move through the world with our hearts wide open to each other and to the possibilities in front of us? While Stephen Covey, as I said earlier, wrote about the speed of trust in businesses, other people have taken that idea about the speed of trust, riffed on it in other ways, talking about trust in personal and organizational relationships, trust in movements. The activist and writer Adrienne Maree Brown says that change can only happen at the speed of trust. And trust, again, can only be developed in relationships. Change makes us vulnerable. It makes our vulnerabilities more apparent. But vulnerability, as I said, is the key to trust. Charles Feltman, in his book, The Thin Book of Trust, defines trust this way: it is choosing to make something you value vulnerable to another person's actions. Distrust, he says, is believing that what is important to me is not safe with this person or situation. And so collectively, we have to practice being vulnerable, bringing what we value most to each other, and responding in ways that let people know it is safe to keep doing that. It's how we're going to build beloved community. It's how we will build a culture that is counter to the destructiveness in the world. And so there are some practices we can engage in. We've actually been talking about them in some ways throughout this whole year. Transforming conflict, being accountable to each other, leaning into our covenant as a covenantal people. But I really love the framework that Dr. Brene Brown offers in Braving the Wilderness. Has anyone in the room read either Dr. Brene Brown's work or specifically Braving the Wilderness? Oh, fewer hands than I thought. Yay, I get to introduce you to something new. If you do not know, Dr. Brene Brown is a sociologist and a clinical social worker. She's on faculty at the University of Houston, where she has done research for well over 25 years now. Her research began by focusing on shame, which led her to looking at vulnerability and the ways in which the antidote to shame isn't getting harder and running away from it, but is being vulnerable and leaning in. And it is from that work on vulnerability and shame that she developed a framework for building trust. It's an acronym: BRAVING, boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, which means being confident, keeping confidence, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. We can practice those very things, that framework here with each other. In a lot of ways we already are. But for trust to really thrive, we need clear boundaries. And as Dr. Brown says, and other wise people have, boundaries aren't the walls we put up to keep other people out, as I did for the first 26 or 27 years of my life. Boundaries aren't rules that we impose on other people that they have to abide by. Boundaries are guidelines we agree on together that help us to be vulnerable and authentic with each other while honoring each other's needs. The boundary isn't, you better do this. The boundary is, I will show up this way. I will respond this way. I will do this so that you have space to do you. Our covenant that we have as a congregation lays out some of our boundaries together. And so in honoring boundaries, we can return again and again to our covenant. Reliability, doing what we say we're going to do. I've been here 18 months, and I have to tell you, you're some of the most reliable people, truly, that I've ever encountered. And that's important because trust, Dr. Brown writes, builds slowly through repeated actions. And therefore, it's eroded through repeated actions. If you say you're going to do something and you never do, someone should distrust you. But if you say you're going to do something and you show up for it, we're building trust. Small actions are what lay the groundwork for that. My colleague and friend, Reverend Angeline Jackson, said this to her congregation recently. When someone shows up consistently, not just once, but time after time, we learn they're reliable. Consider your involvement here. Are you someone others can count on? Do you follow through on your commitments? Reliability in congregational life, Reverend Jackson writes, means showing up not just when it's convenient, but when we said we would. Are we reliable? We can practice that. And while we are being clear about our boundaries, showing up when we say we would, we also hold each other in accountable relationships. I've talked about accountability a lot in the time I've been here, partly because I think there's such a misunderstanding in broader American culture, steeped as it is in white supremacy culture, that says accountability means punishment. But that's not what accountability is. Accountable relationships are healthy, trusting ones where people can admit when they are wrong, where people can name when they are hurt, and trust that they will be believed. Trust that their harm will be listened to. Trust that a sincere apology will be supported in changed behavior. If we don't hold each other accountable with kindness and care, our relationships always just stay on the surface. And as we are holding each other in accountable kindness, we're also holding confidentiality. In congregational life, this can get messy because some congregations keep secrets that should not be kept, secrets that actually harm people. But some congregations keep nothing sacred, and you feel like you're in a gossip hall. And so it's hard. How do we as people show up knowing that some things need to be safe and secure while also having transparent leadership, transparent decision-making processes? We go back to our boundaries. We go back to being reliable. We go back to covenant and say, in this space, what is shared will be held in confidence, even if the spirit or the learning of it needs to be taken outside these walls. We create safe spaces so people can be brave and show up as who they are without fear that who they are is going to come back to them from 10 other people that they didn't even talk to. And in that way, we live into our integrity. We live into being honest people. Honesty is only one part of integrity. Integrity is really about wholeness. Being whole. Knowing what our values are. Knowing that we are messy, flawed human people and that we will make space for that. Living into our values with intentionality and consistency is how we be and become people of integrity. And we need to do that also with a non-judgmental attitude. And oh, Lordy, isn't it hard to lay aside our unconscious biases and our preferences and our assumptions about people and just meet them with curiosity where they are. But trust is built when we know we are accepted by others with our questions and our curiosities and our stumbling and our messing it up sometimes. And it doesn't mean that we as individuals or as an institution aren't seeking to change and grow, but rather will lay aside the judgment and shaming about how that growth might be happening for somebody else. In OWL, Our Whole Lives training, the facilitator training, the framework that was offered to us is we don't yuck other people's yum. We don't judge people when they're trying to tell us a bit of who they are. When we do, trust is eroded. They stop bringing themselves We can be curious and ask questions without dumping shame on people or accepting the shame that might be dumped on us. Because that's how we practice generosity. One of the many ways we practice it. Because being generous with each other, generous with clear boundaries, with our reliability and accountability, generous with our confidence and our non-judgment, means that we assume good intentions about everyone we interact with, and we offer grace in abundance. Generosity and trust are entwined in this way because the world pulls on us and weighs on us in so many ways that when we come together, being received with generous grace lays a foundation for communal trust. Reverend Deanna Ayers says this about why we should engage in these kinds of practices, why we should be braving together. Because the success of our organizing depends on relationships that allow for trust, vulnerability, and rest. Ignoring the importance of these aspects leaves behind those with the least time, energy, and capacity. We have to embrace the truth that trust, vulnerability, and rest and care don't slow down the work. They help us move at a sustainable pace for everyone in our movements. The work that we're trying to do in the congregation, the work that we're trying to do in our partners, with our partners in community, is urgent and it can't be rushed. Sometimes it feels like we're asking each other to slow down and wait, like those white moderates asked of Dr. King. Sometimes it feels like that, and sometimes that might be what it is, but sometimes the let's slow down and listen to each other is so that our system can catch up with the trust we are trying to build so that we don't do more harm. We need to build trust here for the changes that are coming, for the new board that you'll be electing in June, for the new leaders who you're going to invite to take on more roles. We need to build our capacity to trust each other here so that we don't starve our spirits, so that we don't diminish our ability to thrive. We need to trust that like little birds learning to fly, it won't be overnight, and there'll be some stumbles, there'll be some maybe controlled falls where we land on the ground with a thump and a little bit of stunning before we can shake out the feathers and practice some more. We need to be brave so that we can stretch a little farther, dig our roots a little deeper. We make our promises together, we covenant with each other that when we fall, when we break faith, we'll come back to each other and do the work of being trustworthy, of being held accountable, of being called back into the circle of love. That is what we need to be doing here. Because living with our hearts wide open, living with our scars, without letting them become armor, means we get to live full, whole lives with each other, with the people we choose to love. And we can show up for each other over and over again, bravely, honestly, with grace and love. We can learn to fly even as we dig roots. We can reach far together, slowly. At the speed of trust, we'll get where we're going, even if right now we don't know where it is. We will get there, and our soul will unfurl its wings. May it be so, and amen. And I want to invite MR and the treble voices of our choir to come forward for our beautiful closing music.
As they're arriving onto the wherever this is, the stage, I call it. When I plan the church services for the spring semester, I look at all of the Soul Matters themes. And the biggest one was this one, the trust and learning to fly together. And it took great trust to trust just the sopranos and altos to sing and represent the full choir. It allows them to be vulnerable, as I've split one of the sections in half entirely. The sopranos will sing two apart, right? So 2 soprano ones, 2 soprano twos. And then the altos have to figure out, how do I balance that? So it's been a really fun work of trust and vulnerability. And Juan has these rushing 16th notes that no musician can ever keep steady. But I've always trusted that he would do just that. No pressure.
No, you're good. That was beautiful. So, all my dear people, I hope you find ways to jump into the sky and trust that you are loved and you will be caught and carried in all the ways you need. So let us extinguish our chalice. We'll have our chalice lighting words there in your order of service and on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth.